The Meet Magic meetings compared to the other meetings that we have, I have thousands of meetings, literally.
And at the end of a 45-minute meeting, I've helped sick kids at the Starlights Children's Hospital, which is my chosen charity.
When you're first meeting someone, you're trying to build a connection. And with Meetings for Good, you just find the connections automatically there.
And when I actually think about what Meet Magic does and the opportunity to spend some time supporting the community of our vendors, but also being able to give back.
And when the opportunity presented itself to join Meet Magic, I jumped at it.
But these ones are different, and the reason they're different is because the vendor wants to meet with you and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is.
All of those meetings blur into one, but Meeting for Good is memorable.
It absolutely makes sense to do this, and I definitely recommend peers to engage with Meet Magic.
Well, a couple of dramas that we've had there, trying to get things livened up. I don't know what's happened with the tech, but I think we've had a bit of a drama with the tech. But it's been a while since I've actually done one of these lives. I know you've all been waiting for it, but I'm pretty excited about what's going to happen here and with the conversation that we're about to have, because it's something that's been on my mind for quite a while. I think in terms of Australia moving forward and progressing, and I just want to bring two elements together and make the world see that something can actually happen in this particular space. Now, for those that don't know Meet Magic, let me just take a step back and compose myself a little bit, because it's been a bit flustered with all this tech drama. So for those that don't know, Meet Magic is a brand new meeting platform that helps executives and the best tech innovators on the planet come together to meet in a better way. So what we do is we turn conversations into contribution for charities, but we make sure that every interaction for all parties is actually time really well spent. So we like to think of ourselves as rooted in this new concept called meetings as a service. Now, that's our play here, is that you meet better. It's a signal or a shift towards a curated, purpose-aligned interaction. So I want to share a little bit about a bit of an update on the Meet Magic thing, because it's been a while since I've done one of these LinkedIn lives. But we had a vendor that 12 months ago was burning $30,000 a quarter on events, and they got nothing but scanned badges and a lot of hope from that. And today they've turned that around, and they're using one platform for a 30th of that cost that provides them a much better outcome. Now, this is not just another automation tool. So we last quarter, for example, I think we engaged 45 vendors, and those 45 vendors conducted over 150 executive meetings. And the good news is that they've generated over $26 million in pipeline opportunities for themselves with not one single scanned badge in sight. Now, what makes Meet Magic really different is that each one of those meetings supports a charity. We supported many, many different charities over the last quarter. So Starlight, Beyond Blue, Gotcha for Life, Bernardo's, even the Raphael Rowe Foundation in the UK. So many, many more. We've given almost $50,000 away through these meetings. Now, I want to just give a shout out to some of these people, because this is really, really cool. Now, some of these vendors here you'll know of. So these are our top vendors who are most active, most in demand, and the rising stars. Now, Devon in there because we love Jamie, and if you haven't spoken to Jamie yet, you need to, because he's the best hacker in the country. If you're worried about finding holes in your systems, he'll find them for you. But I want to give a massive shout out to Varonis and Vicada. Both of those two companies have been lifesavers for us, really, literally. I mean, Vicada and Varonis, two cybersecurity companies, or two security and safety companies, should I say, but they're most in demand. Most of the execs want to talk to them, and they've been really off the charts, meeting with lots of different people around town. Varonis, I want to obviously a shout out to Zena for being a huge supporter of ours. We love you, Zena. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough for your support. But Mimecast and ChainGuard and Appian, they're the most active. So they're actually getting on the platform and booking lots of meetings or scheduling lots of meetings. Now, let me remove that and add this other one. This is our top execs who have had the meetings. Now, I know David Reeve is the CIO of UTS University. He's a massive competitive animal. And I've got his EA emailing us saying, can we have some meetings, please? So if anybody wants to go and meet with David Reeve, the CIO of UTS, log on to Meet Magic, because he's all for taking that number 33. He's had 33 meetings through our platform. Incredible. Dave Cowan and Lewis from Macquarie Bank. So Dave Cowan's been with us. These guys have been with us since we started. So they probably do one meeting per quarter. Nothing too onerous, and it supports the charities that they care about. And then we've got some rising stars on the right, and obviously they're all women, which is really powerful. So Emma, who's the head of regulatory and investments at Endeavour Energy, Kathleen, who's a CIO of University of Tasmania, and Danielle Handley, she's actually just left, but she was a chief customer officer at Bupa, have been amazing supporters of ours over the past quarter. And at the bottom here, can I make this screen bigger? Don't know. At the bottom here, you'll see Steve Bennett on there as well. But you'll see a number of execs in there who have just been really, really phenomenal supporters of ours, and we just can't thank you all enough. So that is a little bit of an update on the Meet Magic past quarter, which, if I think about being proud, we started this idea. Everyone told me to go and get a job and shut up, which I didn't. I just carried on with it, and we've just carried on, and now we're in 5 countries, and we're about to start some other stuff in different countries I can't talk about just yet. But anyway, let's get down to this call. So I'm really excited because Sarah Minty, who's an MBE, if you don't know what MBE is, Google it. She's the founder of Developing Experts, which is a multi-award winning UK platform that's currently supporting millions of kids in the schools across the UK. I think there's about 6,000 schools, and then they're undergoing at the moment a strategic pilot in the Middle East through a partnership. And that platform that Sarah's built is incredible, and you're going to get to see it now. It automates lesson creation and integrates immersive career discovery tools, and it uses predictive analytics to help governments and educators align the education with the future labour market needs. This is something that is when I think about the gaps that need to be closed, this is one of them that needs to be closed in Australia. It's a massive gap that needs to be fixed. So I'm going to introduce Sarah in a minute, but I've no need to tell you who the other person is. It's Stephen Bennett, who is the current Global Chief Information Security Officer of Domino's. Now, they're a global company, 20-odd thousand restaurants worldwide, across more than 90 countries in the world. I think Texas, I read, was the most. Got something like almost 800 restaurants in Texas. And I think India is the biggest market. I think there's a couple of thousand almost over there. So Stephen Bennett is a current global, and Stephen's, which you'll hear about in a minute, he's got a passion of getting more people into cybersecurity. And how do you do that? Well, we'll work it all out. But Sarah's platform has already transformed, I think, education for over 3 million kids, like I mentioned, across 6,000 schools with this tool. So we're going to have a quick conversation and let's see where it goes. I'm going to introduce Stephen now. Stephen, and here we are. Good evening.
Morning.
Oh yeah, morning. That was a crazy little issue we had there with the tech. I don't know what happened. I just couldn't. Maybe I should have the wooden spoon. Kind of crazy situation, but thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Now, maybe Stephen, you might maybe just give you quick introductions to yourselves and who you are, what you do, where you come from.
Yep, I'll start. So I don't manage all the stores globally for Domino's. I think I'd have far less hair if I did that. So I actually manage 12 regions for Domino's Pizza Enterprises, covering the APAC and Europe region mainly, with around 110,000, I guess, employees across all our stores. I've been the CISO for Domino's for 9 years, so there must be something in the free pizza I get at lunchtime. And that's a bit about me. I am particularly passionate about trying to get people into this industry. I know, a lot of my colleagues feel the same, and I guess the interest here was the platform that Sarah's developed in a way to, I guess, get our messaging across into schools, because it's really hard as as individuals to try and push that message. So that's me.
And don't forget, you're from a beautiful part of the world near my hometown, Stephen. Let's not get that. Let's make sure you got to get Nottingham out or something around there.
Yeah, I think people might have picked up that I'm not Australian, I reckon.
And Sarah, so Sarah, you and I met back in London when you came to our event.
Absolutely. And first of all, before I introduce myself, Carl, I have to say, I'm really impressed with what you've created at Meet Magic. Just turning meetings, everyday meetings, so they have a purposeful agenda is truly transformative for companies. And I'm certainly excited about the work that we're about to embark on. So well done for everything you're doing, and just the sheer amount of money you're raising for charity with the partners that are going on that journey with you. It's super exciting. Yeah, so I'm Sarah Minty. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Developing Experts, and it essentially has been set up to enable governments and industry to strategically plan for their economic future. I've never understood why, if a government knows who their main employers are, why they randomly place children into education systems, hoping that somehow their aspirations or the young people's aspirations are going to align to the needs of an economy. So Developing Experts is all about just solving that one problem, making sure children and their families can make informed choices about their future in a way that really tells the story of what's out there and brings it to life so they can make informed choices about their future. So super excited to spend the next few moments with you.
Thank you. And it's really exciting when I think, and I'm going to call this out, because when we speak about Australian and the gap between sort of the school curriculum and the skills that's being developed, there's a big gap that needs to be closed. And I know there's a lot of countries offshore that are just, they're going to leapfrog what Australia is doing if Australia is not really careful and catches up. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in obviously developing policy, which I think the government's working on at the moment, but they've really got to sort of step into this. Now, Sarah, your platform has already transformed career and education for 3 million kids across 6,000 schools using AI. So let's start with a question. How can it be adapted? And maybe you want to present your platform with this, but how can it be adapted to create engaging virtual, for example, work experiences in cybersecurity that feel real and exciting for these young students? And I think, Stephen, maybe a question for you after that is, from your perspective as a global CISO, what kind of key skills or real world scenarios would you think need to be prioritized in a program like this that would really hook kids in and get them interested?
Okay, well, I'm going to kick off because I think the question was to me first, and I'll answer. Well, what I'll do is I'll share my screen to answer the question that you fired at us, Carl, and hopefully that will then make more sense as I'm explaining what Developing Experts is and how it does what it does. So, can you see my screen? Okay.
Yeah, let's put it up here. Add it in. Here we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, perfect. Well, basically, this is the teacher dashboard. And if you go to the top left-hand corner, you've got the curricula. And so at the moment, we've got 2 subjects built out manually. And if you go in there, you'll have all year groups. But if you click into a subject, if it's been sponsored by an industry partner, you'll see that icon at the top right-hand corner of the tile. And then you've got a complete sequence worth of lessons. So basically, our curriculum doubles up as a shop window for our industry partners. So this particular unit of lessons contains Rolls-Royce SMR. And if I then click into that particular lesson and scroll down, you've got all the components that contribute to making up that particular resource. We've got a whole range of AI tools as well. But when you go into the lesson, this lesson's on charge. You'll basically actually have a series of slides. And as you scroll through, what we've then got within the story of lessons, we've got virtual for, so you're learning about charge in Key Stage 3. You'll then hear from a scientist that works with charge, and they will talk about how what a typical day looks like. And depending on what the industry partners are wanting, some are wanting to build a diverse workforce. What we do is just make sure that the role models that we place in front of the camera really meet the needs of industry to really paint the picture. And so young people can straight away look around the work environment, hear from an industry expert, and then in addition to that, what we do is actually have an industry expert film as well. But at the bottom right-hand corner of each of these slides, we've got connections that go into our career slides. And that literally gives you the complete pathway. And it starts off by having all of the job families mapped out. And if you go into construction straight away, you'll have some myths and facts tiles to explore. And then you'll have all of the careers that relate to that particular family of jobs. We're in the process of building this out, but we'll have the virtual 360s built in here as well, and a whole range of other features. But there's a career coach section as well. And you can either go through those particular tiles, or you can actually have age specifics. They're all actually done in a way that enables you to explore, so it's age appropriate. So if I actually said I wanted to look for a civil engineer, whatever it is, because the actual default will be set automatically as you're going through a lesson, it just feeds through straight away. What it's now doing is basically building out that family of jobs. And so if we were building it out for a civil engineer or for cyber specifically, you can see pretty quickly that it's a really quite straightforward process for us to do, because what we do is just focus on how to make everyday lessons relevant to the world of work. So straight away, children can see if that lesson ignites a passion, the career that complements the theme of the topic, and then it then takes them through this journey. So this is the career page for civil engineering. It shows you the qualifications you need. It shows you what to lean into while you're still at school. And then it shows you any talking heads we've got from industry partners. But then it shows live vacancies linked to that particular discipline. It then shows the career progression. So if you started at a level 1 position, where you need to go to over time. And then it shows all the qualifications. So I think quickly you can see, and more importantly, industry then actually get access to a whole range of data. So they can actually see how many 5-year-olds through to 16-year-olds are interested in becoming cyber specialists through to construction workers. And so if there is a dearth of certain types of specialisms by postcode or a particular area, you know how to deploy your workforce in order to actually intervene and build the talent. And so if you do have school engagement inspiration workers, rather than putting them out there and hoping for the best, what this does is say, right, go to this school. At the moment, they've got 5% of kids in year 7 wanting to do this type of career. We need to educate them more, or we need to pad the journey out a little bit more. And so straight away, you're deploying your asset or the resource that you have in a purposeful way. And that's what we do for governments as well. They know what that future workforce needs to look like, so they can actually strategically plan the resource. But more importantly, rather than deploy funds randomly based on legacy data, they do it in real time. So that's the power of what we do and how we do it.
It's really exciting. Stephen, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, obviously a CISO and skills, bringing them together. How do you see this sort of playing out in your world?
I think the points that you hit that were really key to me, Sarah, were the making it real and relevant. I think I was going to say the cyber training that schools get at the moment isn't real or relevant, but I don't think they really get much cyber training. I think the key there is to make people understand, I guess, the relevance of why they're doing specific training. But I think we need to go a little bit further than that as well, is because, I've spoken to, schools and things like that. And what I hear a lot is that people don't appreciate the that cyber is actually a specific role that they could do. I think there is not this appreciation that cyber is in most industries. So really, to me, it'd be amazing to have some level of the training for school kids that say relate to, managing the security of online gaming, managing the security of a large video streaming application. I think the key is to make it really, really relevant to the students. And that's not going to be, and the other thing, it's got me going now, I think there's two paths. So there's cyber awareness, which is great. And that's what they do touch upon, cyber awareness, but it's kind of fleeting. And it's talking about, obviously, real issues with cyberbullying and how to be safe online. But then there's the cyber training as well. And I think they are quite separate. So the cyber awareness, and there's a lot of CISOs out there trying to pitch in. You've got Craig Ford, he's a well-respected author, teenage cyber books. He's created, awareness packages as well for free. But I think there's the awareness bit, but then that can lead into the training as well. So they are kind of two different aspects, but I think they can be linked together as well. And then we get the, two birds with one stone as well, if we kind of do it that way.
Absolutely. It's a bit like that circle of influence as well. It's all about, kids follow what they can see. And the problem with cybersecurity, it's a subject that unless they are really spending all their time on the computer, it's one of those invisible subjects and in some ways a bit unreachable to most young people. And so creating a picture and telling that story in a way that enables them to see it, because they can't be what they can't see. It's all about just telling the story and making them aware of the connections in everyday jobs, because cyber is in every sector. And so is finance, and so is HR, but it's one of those streams that go across everything. And so you really have to spotlight it.
Stephen, we spoke yesterday a little bit about the future of the next 5 or 10 years, where you sort of see a world where a CISO might be managing 10 agents, for example. So if that was the case, what kind of skills would the kids need to have now to move into a career in cyber?
They need to jump aboard the AI train. I think it's a very, very fast moving train. And I think I'd be safe to say there are limited spots on the train. I think really schools at the moment are very averse to using AI, because obviously there's this conflict of interest. The old school way of obviously teaching, AI kind of destroys that model a little. I think we really need to start pushing schools the use of AI and getting kids knowing how to use AI properly and how to actually use that as part of a real role as well. So not just saying, you can use AI and it's great, you can take pictures of your fridge and go, hey, what can I have for lunch? Which is really awesome, by the way. But things like, saying, well, okay, there's a lesson where we're talking about going back to real life. So, you're working for a gaming company and you've spotted some attacks, but you're actually using AI to interrogate billions of logs to try and identify, who's attacking you, and, having it all rolled up in a gamified way, I think is really important. But I think teaching AI to kids now is the key, because they will end up, in a workforce where there's an expectation that you know how to use AI and you know how to manage AI as well. So
yeah, I really worry about this whole banning of social media for under 16s in Australia, and I think Texas is doing the same thing. One on the left, one on the right, and they both ended up at the same place, which is to ban kids from using AI. But one of the analogies I heard yesterday was that it's a little bit like teaching kids how to swim with a life jacket on, and then when they hit 16, throw them in the deep end and say, off you go. That, I think, is the analogy that we're talking about here. If you don't give the kids access to these tools, that's what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years. They're not going to know what to do.
Yeah. And I think as well, there's this misconception that, you want to train your kids with good cyber awareness and good cyber practices. So when they become adults, they don't get scammed. But the problem is kids are getting scammed now. Like whilst they're at school, they are being impacted by cybercrime. as teenagers at school or younger. So it's something that they need to jump on board now, not wait till we're adults.
Is it Sweden I read about that actually teaches kids about in the schools about how to use AI and spot deep fakes, spot scamming, phishing attacks? And so by the time they actually get to 15, 16, they're completely aware of what something like that looks like. Is it Sweden? I think it's Sweden that's doing that.
I'll have to look that one up because I'm not quite sure. But I think for me, I don't think banning's the way. I think there should just be a more I think parents need to step up a bit and actually support children at home, because it can't just be the domain of teachers, because schools only have young people for a third of the day. The parent has them for the other 2/3 of the day. So it really has to be a partnership approach to managing this whole domain. And it's a bit like money. Often that's not talked about, and then children are given a salary and end up in debt, or a lot of them do, because it's not talked about. And I think we just need to have healthy, honest conversations about how to do this in partnership with the home and school in a way that just tackles, but in a way that supports and manages it and informs. Because at the moment it's taboo, and it's a bit like I deal with a whole different range of different sectors, and but parents, teachers, children, they come to the subject, regardless of whether it's cyber or not, with preconceptions that are based on assumptions rather than information. And that's dangerous. And I think cyber's, it's the same. It's actually, there's a lot of fear around the topic, and because people aren't navigating or talking about the subject well enough and clearly enough in a way that does educate, does inform, that misinformation is being put on a pedestal and shouted nice and loudly. And so I think it's about taking control of the reins in a way that really guides people through to make them aware of the dangers, but then also it's force for good, because there is a middle ground.
Well, I think what you're doing by making them aware of the dangers is actually taking away the problem that they're banning it for in the first place, which is to protect them. They're banning it to protect the kids' mental health and so on. But if you actually teach them what those things look like to start with, they can learn to deal with it and build up the resilience to be able to cope with it. So I think there's a bit of an oxymoron going on there, but banning it I don't think is the answer either. But Stephen and Sarah, same question. You've obviously tried to get your technology into the schools. You've done a great job of getting it into the schools, 6,000 of them. What kind of barriers did you see getting that? How did you overcome those barriers, getting it into the schools? And for Stephen, it's the same sort of thing. How do you get, what are those barriers of getting kids interested at an early age? And how do you overcome that, almost, is the question.
Yeah, well, for us, we needed, the tipping point for us was COVID, because lots of schools were averse to tech, and then that forced the hand a bit, and then they had to go looking. And we were one of the few products that really were ahead of the game at the point COVID happened. And so then we had mass adoption. But without that, it's about actually making sure your teachers are your ambassadors and your champions, because they're the gatekeeper for the classroom. So if you don't have the teachers on board, you don't have access to the classroom. And so for us, it's about really making sure we provide a solution that meets the needs and pain points for teachers, because if you actually are leaning into what it is that they need, then it's not something that's being done to them. And often I can remember when I was a teacher myself, we'd have industry come in and give us some amazing schemes of work. But the problem is it was done in a way where it was in addition to the school curriculum. And as a teacher, my priority is getting through the school curriculum, because that's what I'm judged on. And so for us, it's about providing teachers with the tools that make that job easy or easier. And then that message can permeate. And so it's about strategy, engagement, listening to the teacher and the parents who are using and engaging with you in order to grow that community.
It's very interesting. It's a whole new world out there. You can almost imagine rolling out a virtual cybersecurity work experience program. What would a success story or win look like from that perspective, Stephen? Can you see anything happening in that space, or can you see what that future would look like?
No, I think we can. I mean, we did. I think I've spoken about this before, and it's not exactly the same, but it does demonstrate. I'll get round to it full circle. One of the times we recruited, we wanted to recruit a junior. We have this huge work pool, store employees. So we wanted to come up with a way of going, okay, well, how do we find those that really have a passion and an interest in cyber rather than, it's just a job. So we've tried the path before where you advertise. We had thousands of applications. It was a very time-consuming process, and to be honest, we didn't find anybody. Now, the approach we took the second time around is we created essentially like a hacking challenge. So it was a challenge. You didn't have to have any formal cyber training, and there were lots of clues dropped in pictures and bits of text. And the idea was you could then go through this, and it was to judge your ability to search and find. So it's still very real, it's still very relevant, but it was your ability to look at, say, a picture and go, okay, what on earth am I supposed to do with that picture? It's got some weird text on it. And there were clues in the picture. So then they'd search and basically they'd go through gates to get to a point where they unlock an email address and they can actually apply for the position. And for us, it was a case of we knew that for them to get to that end point, they'd have to put a lot of work in. And then the other part of it was they had to write a report at the end, which no one likes writing reports. I hate writing reports. That's why AI is amazing. Yeah. But you had to write a report at the end. And the idea of the report at the end was to see, okay, technically they're there. They've obviously solved the problems. They've got the right mindset, should I say, not technical capability. Now, have they got the follow through? Are they able to spend the time and energy to do what essentially would be the boring part of the task? And at the end of it, we ended up with some people that were extremely technical, lots of technology experience. They sailed through, they unlocked the email, they applied. Their application was 2 sentences. And then we'd have somebody, in this instance, a guy who worked in a store. He had done a cyber degree, but he was really struggling, to get his way in. And his report was amazing. He clearly spent a lot of time and effort in kind of developing that. And I think where your platform fits in nicely to this, going full circle, is if we can make sure that platform is instilling, I guess, those same kind of skills in young people. And it's kind of gamified as well, because they'll get bored. But if we can instill that same attitude where people are going to research, they're going to find information, they're going to keep learning, and that platform encourages that, I think that's a huge win, because the way we see it right now is that when somebody finishes, say, a university degree, we essentially go, well, it's great. You've shown, that you can spend the time and you're disciplined and you've kind of got this foundation, but we start the knowledge transfer from that point onwards, and it can take like 6 months. And it's really honing in on, we want to make sure that, they've got that capability to be curious and to learn. And I think that's where this platform would be really good.
Yeah, we have our virtual work experience programs. We're in the process of launching them now. But what we've done in order to actually get to the point of launch is do some focus workshops with the employer, with the young people as well, just to work out what's going to motivate. Gamification came through strong and loud. And so what we're doing is building in a curveball tasks. And so they'll be really engrossed in an activity, and all of a sudden an email or a video call flies in, and they've got to rush off and do something that scuppers what they were involved with. And it just gives them a flavour what real life work setting is all about and what it looks like, because you just don't know sometimes what that day looks like because of those curveballs. Yes, some certain roles are repetitive, but a good chunk of them aren't. And so we're just really giving them a taste of a range of roles within the workplace. but in a way that just gives them insight. And then we've got some AI tools that enable them to search a whole range of different careers in depth. But it's about helping them make those informed choices, as I said earlier. And at the end of it, what they'll do is get a certificate of completion, and that will be populated in a CV that they can build out on the platform as well. So when they come to employers like Domino's, they'll have, oh, this is what I've done previously with other leading employers. So yeah, I think it's really critical to make sure that taste of work is as close to the real thing as possible.
It's really exciting. This thing really has potential. I mean, the name of the podcast is Igniting Kids' Curiosity into Cybersecurity with AI. That's exactly what it is. It is fundamentally, you don't even have to go and build it. It's already there. I mean, I can't see how any Australian school or university could build something like what you've created within the next 5 years. It would just take them. There's just no way it'd happen. So I think it's really got something to create a diverse talent pipeline for industry. Sarah, do you think something like what you've developed is easily customizable for the schools over here?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a new tool that is launching in September, which is basically a curriculum self-build tool. I'll share it to you because we've got a few moments, haven't we? Yeah. So if I just share my screen and then go into our curriculum build tools. You can, if you're in Australia now, and you're already using a curriculum that you're bought into, you don't want to leave, you can actually just integrate that curriculum into our platform. So if I actually just put Meet Magic as a tester, and then
live, by the way, everyone. This is not. We haven't planned this. I'm scared now.
Oh no, this is not our AI tools. I could have done that, but this is our pre-built stuff. So you can actually add slides, and say, for example, if I wanted to add into the presentation and the lesson, I can actually add an employer into the slides and build them out straight away. And so straight away, when I go into the presentation slides, I've got the employer immediately appearing within a work setting that the child can explore. So the teacher can then build out those lessons and the whole resource around it. And it then populates the quiz tools or the quizzes that complement that particular theme as well. You're thinking about this tool here, aren't you, Carl? So this is our AI lesson build tool. So what you can do is, I'm just going to put Australia because, and see what it comes up with. You can select the year group or the subject. You can select the year group, you can select the curricula, and then what you can do is the AI will basically generate 3 sets of lesson titles and complementary sets of objectives. And then once those lesson titles and objectives appear, you can either accept them as they come up, or you can modify them. So if I just said focus on bridges, it will then modify the lesson titles and the themes that are coming up in order to look at Australia plus bridges plus whatever settings I've actually then added to the search criteria. Once you're happy with what's come up, you can actually then select that lesson and the AI will start building it all out. But the AI solution that's been built out is similar to the one I shared earlier of the manually built lesson, but it then connects those and puts in those career examples that are linked to that specific search title. But once you've got it up, what you can then do, if you're not happy with a particular title of some sort, you can edit it as well. And so it means that as you build out, these are the different assets. You've got the presentation, the videos, the careers, and that they'll build out quite quick. But here, if I actually just say change it, so if I just put bridges, it will then come up with all the different bridges. If I put Australian bridges, you've got to be Pacific. And then you can actually amend the title and start making it your own. So it started making the lesson titles, the keywords that are linked to that resource, and it will add the misconceptions as well. It's a little bit in go slow mode at the moment, but it literally enables you to build out those resources very quickly in a way that makes those connections to the careers and the world of work quick.
Which I think that is key for cyber as well, because I think one of the other issues we have, and I kind of inferred this when I talked about the university, is obviously threats evolve so quickly that one of the problems you have, and this was one of my other questions for later, but you've pretty much answered it now, was how do we make sure that the curriculum or the content is up to date? Because there's nothing worse than, you know, if you start presenting to the kids. So for instance, my child, he's just going through his information technology, and he's learning how to manually write a web page using HTML.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I think people stopped doing that maybe 15, 20 years ago, and things like that. But it's because the curriculum basically says, well, this is what you're going to do, and then you're going to create a database. And it's all 20 years ago. So I think, again, having something that's relevant, it'd be amazing to, you know, get to a point where you go, okay, there's this new threat, it's sweeping the world. It's, you know, something particularly scary that you can just spin up a lesson for the class. It'd be amazing.
I find that remarkable, Stephen, that the kids are learning HTML when you could literally log into Lovable and build something within a prompt.
No, they had to use HTML, and yeah, it's ridiculous. I was
what is the point of that? I don't get the point. What?
I think it's the curriculum. Like, I used to be in a million years ago a trainer for NVQ. And I used to do the planning for the NVQ up to NVQ3. So I had to come up with the full, I guess, you know, what the lesson plan looked like. So I kind of get it, because it is time consuming if you're halfway through assessing people in one old style and you go, okay, well, I want to put together some new materials, but then I've got people on the old materials. So maybe I'll have to wait for them to finish before I start the other one. But then I've got this limited window. So I think it is difficult for them to do that. But they don't have tooling like you've just demonstrated there. I mean, to be able to display...
in part, it's to do with the assessment frameworks, because the accreditation boards that are awarding certificates to say how competent a user is, it's around 18 months to actually change an education framework. Think how long and how far technology moves in an 18-month window already. By the time a course is published, it's already out of date. And so that is probably the key driver for why things are not moving as quick as they need to, because the schools buy into a particular syllabus that comes with an awarding body. And it's a long process to make a decision about which awarding bodies you're going into. So the awarding bodies, they make those decisions. But if they, it's that 18-month lag that's going to kick in.
I thought that was I don't know who the LinkedIn user is, but it's someone's popped up and said there's a question there about converting static content to interactive game with achievements and levels. I thought that was an interesting viewpoint, which is probably relevant.
It's a case of just building it out. I mean, there are so many good ideas just to make it exciting for young people. We've got plans to do something a little bit like that next year, to personalize the user experience. So as a young person goes through the platform, it will say, Steve, right, what lifestyle do you want? And then based on their answers, if they want a house, a car, a family, it will say, well, actually, that type of lifestyle is going to cost this amount. And therefore, you'll need to go think about this level of career within this sector, or whatever sectors that actually align to your interests. But then as they're going through the curriculum, it will give them feedback loops linked to their aspiration, linked to that motivation. So there's lots of carrot as they're going through. So we're going to be gamifying with feedback loops, that personalized journey as they're going through the curriculum, whatever it is they're learning, in a way that they're rewarded. The more they engage, the more points, prizes they get as they're going through the learning process. So we're working towards that as a solution now, actually. So but that's I think that's the key, to really lean into children's passions or learners' passions, to make sure that it's all carrot and no stick, or little stick.
I just want to thank you two for coming on and trusting me to do this live. It's been quite fascinating, and I think when I met Stephen a couple of weeks ago up in Brisbane, I went to see my daughter graduate from UQ, and Stephen and I caught up, and he told me what he was doing in this space. And after our conversations with the Department of Education here, Sarah, my ADHD brain just said, oh my God, there's two things that you can just close the gap. And so there's the problem that Steve's got, which is, how do you get more people involved and interested in coming into cyber? And you've got something that could really give them the tool to actually do it. And so I've got this dream in my head of Steve having his face and his virtual work experience in every school of the country. I think
my face does not need to appear in every school.
Everybody loves pizza. Everybody relates to pizza. There's no way anyone can say they don't like it, because shut up. And so this is really, and when you think, Steve, you told me this up in Brisbane about, you think of Domino's as a pizza company, but it's seriously a technology company.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I think a lot of the talks I give, I did some recently, and it was all about, we are actually, the cybersecurity that runs in the background is huge for an organization like this. And people don't realize that it's everywhere kind of thing. So
my brother, when he was a teenager, he was a delivery driver for Domino Pizza. So, but my mindset default is, pizza making and then delivery drivers. But just having you coming on and telling your story, Steve, immediately, I'm thinking about Domino's in a different way. And I mean, that's what we focus on, just getting great storytellers into lessons so the kids can actually hear and see what those pathways are within a complex business like Domino's. Because there are so many different opportunities. But I can remember, when we started out doing what we're doing for the rail industry, there are 15,000 different job industries or different job disciplines within rail alone. Wow. How can anyone outside of rail tell the story of rail? And it's a bit like Domino's. You'll have so many different disciplines within your company, and you really have to dig under the bonnet to actually start understanding what that opportunity looks like, to really start getting excited as well about the company. Because it's and I'm excited about Domino's based on what I've heard today, Steve.
Well, the first thing they can do with the trains is put some air conditioning on, Sarah. I think that's Rory. A shout out to Rory Sutherland, who's our chief evangelist. I mean, Rory's the vice chairman of Ogilvy in the UK, and one of the things he talks about is making the journey and experience better. And I think that's what this is for education. It's making the experience better for the kids, not just to sit down and read a book and do stuff, but it's an experience of being immersive that's interactive. And he talks about the Eurostar. Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
He said people were complaining about the speed of the Eurostar, but he said instead of spending 5 billion quid and making it 10% faster, why don't you just spend £1 million and put the world's top models in their underwear serving French champagne up and down the aisles, and people will probably want the train to slow down.
That sounds like a Rory comment to make. I think it's the best way of responding to that one.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll get this all wrapped up and posted so we can share it with some people. But I think it's, for me, in my head, there's two people here that can really make a transformation, in Australia specifically with education and trying to close that gap. In my head, I see rural and regional Australia people having an opportunity now to get into cybersecurity because of your technology. That's how I see it. Very simple. Rather than talking about it on stage in a fireside chat about what could, you could actually just do and get on with it straight away. And I think that's something that's really exciting. I find that really something that would lift and elevate Australian education system one school at a time, almost.
Carl, thank you so much for inviting us along today. I've really enjoyed spending the last hour with you, and you, Steve, as well. Fascinating conversation.
That's been really good. Thank you for inviting me. I think it's cup of tea time now, I reckon.
Cup of tea, lad. Yeah, me too. Thanks. Enjoy your day in London, in the UK.
Yeah, thanks so much, Carl. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.